Hello, everybody. I just thought I'd get into this notion of good versus evil. I've been reading Herman Hesse, the philosopher, author, and his book, Demian. And it's very interesting because there's this character who is basically a child. He's about 10 years old, 9, 10 years old. And he comes from a pretty stable, religious, traditional, home loving family, and he basically starts to face the unknown, right? Like the bad part of life, you could say, the chaotic part of life. First through a bully, like physically, I guess he gets extorted for money, and then eventually he meets this guy who's Demian, the name of the book. And Demian is this sort of I don't know how to call it. He's a type of he talks about people having good and bad, and acknowledging the good and bad, right? But the author makes this reference where, like, it is true that basically when you're a child, you're all fun and loving, and very happy, and everything is good, and everything is perfect, and everything is going according to plan, and there's order, there's structure. And then I wouldn't say it's when you're 10. I mean, when you're 9, 10, you are in this Libra stage where it runs from 9 to 12. And that's when you start to meet the other, right? The other being like friends. That's when you have a lot of friends as a child. That's when you play out in the street. But it's all kind of fun in games until you hit 12. From 12 to 15, there's the Scorpio stage. And if you know anything about the zodiac, it kind of goes, full circle. But it starts and it ends with Aries and Pisces respectively, and then down here there's that Libra Scorpio switch where you're actually the furthest away from your individuality, right? And that world, that other world, right? That unknown, that chaos, that potential danger, potential everything, right? Is what this author kind of argues we're struggling with as humanity, right? We're in conflict with this area constantly. So it's kind of interesting because I do think about that, and I say, well, yeah, if you look at the human race, it is kind of like that. You start off, with good intentions, but as you see, trouble, as you see like how people operate, how people think, how people treat you, the injustices, all of the chaos, the unknown, all of that potential, where it is potential for bad, but it is also potential for good. That's where people, start to kind of switch. And then there's this term, the shadow, right? Jordan Peterson talks a lot about the shadow, as well as Carl Jung, excuse me. And the shadow is basically this side of you that is not bad, but it's not good, right? So it has all of your impulses, your id, your ego, your basic necessities, whether they're sexual or violent. So aggression, right, is in here. So you need, the shadow work kind of makes reference to this, where you need to integrate this bad part of you, because we all have it, and I talked about this in my balance videos. You need to integrate it, and you need to find a way for it to make sense with the other good part of you, right? So you have a good part, and it's kind of like we try to show this face to society, right, where we're all good, we're all righteous, superficially we're virtuous, we're well dressed, we're groomed, we're well mannered, we're educated. But then behind the scenes, we hide this other type of dirty, nasty, ugly side, right? Which is the shadow, which nobody wants to see, which we don't want people to see in us, right? Because we're ashamed, because we fear exclusion, social exclusion. We're going to get kicked out of the tribe. We're going to be on our own. And being alone means death, right? Because we're trying to survive and thrive. So when there's order in society, there's always going to be people that are going to try to shake things up, right? And this is kind of interesting too, because it goes together with this awesome lecture by Alan Watts that I watched once. It's about 3 hours long, but I recommend, if you're into this type of shadow work, or just detecting that other side that's not so virtuous, the kind of cynical, laugh at that order type of side, I recommend the video The Joker. So Alan Watts goes deep into what the Joker is, where the roots come from, where he basically goes back to monarch times where the king had the Joker, that would make him laugh. And it was kind of like I guess he says it was kind of like a type of crazy person where this person would kind of act out and point out, funny things in the way of life, kind of like comedians do nowadays. And that would make people laugh, just any type of people, even the monarch, right, which is supposed to be like a very serious order structure type of person. But Alan Watts, where like I watched it once and I'm watching it again, he also argues that it reminds the structure, right, this type of virtuous, orderly, traditional, maybe even religious type of people. It reminds them also, there's humanity, paradoxically, so you try to be very humanly by having order in your life, that you end up being kind of like stuck. You actually, by being so virtuous, you actually end up being anti-virtuous, right? You end up getting stuck because you don't open yourself up to the potentials anymore, right? To the chaos, to the unknown. So it is in the unknown where you can go and pick up things that you can use in your life for it to become, for you to innovate, right? And I'm not saying, I mean, it's a constant struggle, right? This is the fight. This is the fight we live as humans. I'm not saying that you should always be in the chaotic part, because we know people that always live in chaos, always live in that potential, right? Sometimes it goes good, sometimes it goes bad. Most of the time it goes bad because there's no structure. You need structure, you need Saturn in your life, right? But it's also bad to only stay in the structure side, in the good and the virtuous part, right? Because you don't open yourself to upgrades, you don't open yourself up to innovation, right? So I'm all for status quo, but you can see this in the type of commentaries that right-wing speakers have nowadays, right? Where they basically reject completely the ideals of the left, right? And I consider myself more right inclined, more conservative, but I also understand the left, right? Especially in the United States with the type of trans movement and LGBT and Black Lives Matter and all this type of movements, social movements that are going on. I think whether you go to one extreme or another, it's kind of bad, because if you're on the chaotic part, it feels good, but it's momentary pleasure, right? It's short term, it's short lived. And if you're on the other side, you're thinking about the future, you're thinking about tradition, you're thinking about keeping the status quo. But it also closes you up to potential change, to potential innovation, right? To improve things, So I think you do need a balance, or you need to do this dance where you swing back and forth, right? And the Joker is the type of person that, if you're a person that most of us, we're working, civilized people, we do need that type of joke in our lives, right? To laugh. Like I watch a lot of stand-up comedy and or like Family Guy, and I like to laugh. I like to bring that insane chaotic twist once in a while, because your life is so structured and orderly, right? You work, you eat, you sleep, so you do need to bring in that type of chaos once in a while, right? And that's the dance between good and evil, right? That's what I wanted to talk about today. It's interesting how in this book Herman Hesse mentions that we started in childhood, and we actually, I think I agree with him, we face, there's a moment where like you're no longer in the sanctuary of your home, right? In the nice, warm, familiar place of your household. You face, the unknown. You face, the streets, crime, drugs, potential, right? The unknown. And I would say personally, I went pretty into that realm, right? I was like, yes, please, boom. But there are people that I think kind of don't really want to go there, right? And they kind of fight that off like their whole lives. Like it runs parallel to their life. In their whole life, they're kind of like pushing it away because they don't really want that to come in them, or for them to go in it, right? Which is like at the same time the same thing. So I think when that happens, you actually have the capacity to improve yourself if you know how to direct that, right? Obviously it is dangerous because it could lead you to dead ends, but if you know how to guide it, if you know how to take it in the right direction, that's power, right? It's love on one side and it's power on the other side, and those fused together make a great combination, right? I think that's the human experience. I think that's in part of the objective of living life, right? To combine those two forces, which apparently seem contradictory or opposed, but are actually complementary. So yeah, good and evil, y'all. Just thought I'd mention a little bit about what I've been doing lately with this notion, and wishing you all a good day, good week, good month, good year, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.